Today is a special day. Just over a decade ago, I graduated with my master's in entertainment business from Full Sail University in Central Florida. Tomorrow, yes, tomorrow, I will be inducted into the Full Sail University Hall of Fame. This special event has got me thinking, what are the most important business lessons that I've learned in a decade? Well, today I'm sharing those with you, so get ready. I'm Phil Pallen, a brand strategist. Welcome to my channel where I share practical advice to build your brand. Today I'm in Orlando, Florida, and I'm posting a different kind of video for a special occasion. I hope you don't mind. I promise it will still add value. Now, this is me 10 years ago, months away from graduating with my master's degree from Full Sail University. Today, well, actually tomorrow and throughout this week, they're recognizing me in a very special way by inducting me into their Hall of Fame. I'll link to a blog post below so that you can learn more about this. And I thought for this video, it might be fun to take a moment and reflect on the little lessons that I've learned along the way. And maybe by sharing them, you might gain some insight as well. So let's get started with the first lesson. Maybe the biggest one that I've learned in a decade. Lesson number 1, seize every opportunity. That picture I showed you a second ago, I was working away on my first website that I ever made, which was called Tiger Blood Phil, because I was in the running to become Charlie Sheen's intern. I made it from 90,000 to the top 50. It's a long story, and I'll keep the short version for today in this video. But by saying yes to every opportunity that came my way, I benefited from it. People often talk about the importance of saying no, but I think in your earlier days of establishing your brand, building what I call proof of concept, I think it's important to say yes. Even difficult moments, in those moments, it can be tough, but sometimes they're necessary to equip you with an awareness of what's right and what's wrong, your working style, your strengths, your weaknesses, etc. Seize every opportunity, especially in the early days. Say yes. Lesson number 2, relationships over knowledge. Don't get me wrong. I learned a lot of important things in the classroom, but nothing I learned in the classroom comes close to the importance and weight of relationships. As you build your business, take inventory of who you know and how they might play a role in what you're building. Not as a business partner or even a customer necessarily, but maybe they'll give you a step up. Some clients, maybe they'll send clients your way, or maybe they'll make an important introduction. I'll give you an example. A few years after I graduated, I came back to Full Sail to participate in a panel discussion. It just so happens that one of the instructors was hosting a guest on campus that day, Joshua McKinley, a fashion designer and a notable finalist on the show Project Runway. When this instructor, who knew of me, heard I was on campus, she made an intro for Joshua and me that day, and Joshua became my first TV client, which at the time was a dream come true. It set the stage for me to continue working in the entertainment industry, which is exactly what I wanted to do. Relationships over knowledge. That's lesson number 2. Lesson number 3, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Sometimes we all need that reminder. I'm very proud of the clients that I work with today. Creators, keynote speakers, coaches and consultants, multinational brands, food and beverage, entertainment, lifestyle, and many others. A quick peek at my website will give you a full rundown of my clients. And it sounds fancy now, but it certainly wasn't when I started. My first few clients were really anyone that would pay me to render a service that they felt was valuable for them. And in the beginning stages of my business, I was a one-man show. I created websites, I designed logos, I wrote social media content, I would do it over the phone with my clients in that moment. And the business has obviously evolved, and I learned where opportunities existed and balanced that with focusing on the things that I enjoy doing and delegating the rest. So my point here, you won't realize these things overnight. It takes time. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Next lesson, that's lesson number 4. Hard work isn't enough. I touched on this a moment ago, but you really need to be ready to put in some serious hours and commitment to grow your business. But showing up and doing the hard work isn't enough on its own. I'll explain. Punching the clock, as it's often called in a normal 9 to 5, that ain't gonna cut it in building your own business. You're gonna have wins, you're gonna have losses, mistakes, can totally suck in the moment, but they are indicators of when and where you might need to change your strategy or product. Even if it's a slight repositioning of it, that can make all the difference. Hard work, putting in the hours, it's not enough on its own. Listening to your client, listening to demand, making mistakes, and more importantly, paying attention to what they teach you, this will inform what you need to do to grow. Let's keep going. Lesson number 5, make it about them, the client, not you. This is such an important lesson that I learned early on, and for this lesson, I'll use another example. One of the coolest moments in my career was when I was pitching a new client after our first meeting that we had. She read my proposal, looked at it, and said to me, "Great, let's do it all." That was Judy Stakey, a renowned songwriting coach and a great friend of mine and a repeat client. I referred to her as the first client who wholeheartedly trusted me to create her brand. I treasure that moment because I think it happened because I really focused on what she needed. Obviously, I paired that with a convincing argument and she trusted me, but it was less about me and it was all about her. And I really try to channel that same approach with every client that I work with. Make it about them, your client, your lead, your prospect, not about you. Lesson number 6, eggs don't belong in one basket. This is a long story that I'm also going to keep short. This is YouTube, after all. I did something a few years ago I swore I'd never do in my career. I put all my eggs, or almost all of my eggs, in one basket. I'll explain. I took on a client for a project that started small. We did a good job. So the client came back to me and said, "Hey, Phil, can you guys do another project and another project and then another project?" And after a few months, this client became significant, occupying at least 5, 6, maybe even 7 client spots, which was great and lucrative until that company was sold and restructured and took our responsibilities in-house. Not because we did a bad job, but simply there were changes, right, that affected us that we had no control over. And it took a lot of months for me to recover from that when that client was no longer there. I had to really rebuild my business. The lesson here, while it's tempting to say yes, 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 and to add more responsibilities with one particular client, I should caution you to also be aware of protecting yourself, diversifying the way that you get paid. A few more lessons. Let's keep plugging along. Lesson number 7, be a big fish in a small pond. Maybe you've heard that saying before. Well, since graduating a decade ago, I've experienced both being a small fish in a big pond, like moving out to LA with no friends, family, job. And it's tough. That's definitely tough, but you have to start. There's one side of this argument that being physically present in a big market is good for opportunities and connections that are frankly hard to secure when you're not there in person. And I do think that's true. However, times are a little different now. People are used to doing business online. People are used to meeting new contacts on the internet. It's not weird anymore. It's normal. Your geographical location matters less than it used to. Work towards being a big fish in a small pond, which could mean actually not even being in the US at all. I've got a grad that I've mentored from Full Sail that comes to mind, and let me quickly share his story. My friend Nicholas studied at Full Sail, graduated, and spent some time in the US building his career. He has ended up going back to his smaller country, his home country of Colombia, one of my favorite countries, by the way, and now he's managing his brother's band, Timo, one of the fastest growing acts in Colombia right now. All of this to say, especially for people wanting to make it in the US, get here somehow, some way, or for people who think you need to be in the US to be successful, this is not necessarily true. My business is based here, which I'm grateful for, but I have spent almost all of the last 5 years working remotely from outside the country. Consider working towards becoming a big fish in a small pond. It has worked for me and it's worked for a lot of other people I know. Let's keep going. Lesson number 8, opportunities exist everywhere. Now, I mentioned a second ago how much time I've spent working remotely. Check out all these countries that I've called home for at least more than a month at a time. Opportunities exist everywhere, and they exist when you least expect it. For example, a lunch meeting to catch up with an old friend turned into an introduction to the Canada-UK Chamber of Commerce, where I then delivered a keynote at a banquet, and then I won a contract to design their website. See how this works? One thing leads to another. Opportunities truly exist everywhere. Okay, a few more lessons. Lesson number 9, you cannot predict the future. It's funny how in hindsight, you try to plan every move, internships, jobs, connections, places you might live, but normally things don't go as planned, and there are variables that you just can't anticipate. You cannot predict the future. I recommend trying to be at peace with that. I think that's going to set you up for success. That's a simple one, but an important one. And I have one more lesson to share in this video. Lesson number 10, take time to reflect and be proud of your accomplishments. This is exactly what I'm doing this week. I should mention, I have some sessions this week at Full Sail that will be live streamed, including one called How to Build a $1 Million Brand. I will link to that in the description below. You can watch it live or catch the replay. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a like. That helps other people discover these videos, which I work hard to create for you. And subscribe for more of my videos on branding, positioning, building, and promoting your brand. Next, I'm sharing a few videos that I think you'll be interested in. I'm Phil Pallen. Thanks for watching this video, which is a little different than what I normally do. And those videos that I mentioned, those are coming up next.